Do the characters ever surprise you? Do they do things you don't want them to do? What is that like?
Well, the answer to that is yes, they do things that I don't approve of all the time. And I know that if you are the kind of fiction writer who is more plot focused than character focused, then I think you can make that outline and know where you're going. I think probably mystery writers have to know where they're going. But my work is more character driven, and I usually start with the voice of a character. I don't know what their story is, but I develop a voice and let them sort of speak to me in first-person narrative. And little by little, layer by layer, I go deeper and deeper into their lives. But I couldn't do that if I didn't show up at the desk every morning. Characters who do things that I don't necessarily want them to do. Probably the prime example of that was Dolores Price, the main character of my first novel, She's Come Undone. And even though I was writing as Dolores, what I was really feeling was parental toward her. And she was the kind of wild child that I couldn't control as a parent. I used to try to do that, when I would show up at the desk, and for instance, there's a scene where she's 13 years old and she starts flirting with the upstairs neighbor at her grandmother's house. And I didn't know that's a character named Jack Spate. And I didn't know if Jack was going to be benign or malignant. And I kept, because I was feeling protective and parental toward Dolores, I kept trying to make him benign. And then the writing kept coming out phony. And so finally, I just sort of let it go where it seemed to want to go. And there are some moments when you're writing fiction, all too infrequently for me, where you're sort of in the zone and the characters and the scene are more real to you than what your reality is around you. So I was hyper-focused on that. She goes upstairs to the upstairs neighbor, and they're just by themselves, and he starts tickling her. And it turns into something other than tickling, and I remember I thought when I finished that scene, I thought maybe 20 minutes had gone by, and then I did sort of refocus on the environment around me, and I looked at the clock on the wall, and it was like 3 hours had gone by. So there are those times. That's when the writing kind of writes itself. It doesn't happen very often, at least for me. But yeah, I never felt like I could really control these characters. Ultimately, I can in revision, but I am not the kind of writer who is the master puppeteer pulling the strings of the character. In some ways, I'm the puppet, and they're pulling my strings or yanking my chain or whatever.
Or whatever. So writing is an act of discovery for you.
Very much so, yeah.